Some stories aren't just about love, they're about fate. About two souls finding each other when they need it most. This is one of those stories. It began with loss. Daniel had spent years feeling like something was missing, carrying a grief that refused to fade. And then came Charlie, a stray dog, blind and abandoned, with nothing but a quiet resilience in his heart. From the outside, they seemed like an unlikely pair. But what no one realized was that they were about to change each other's lives in ways no one could have predicted. What started as an act of rescue quickly turned into something far greater. Together, they learned to navigate the world, not just physically, but emotionally. They faced obstacles, moments of doubt, even danger. And through it all, they built a bond so deep, so unshakable, that it defied every limit placed upon them. This is more than just a story about a dog. It's a story about trust, about healing, about proving that love and loyalty don't depend on sight, but on something much stronger. So sit back, listen closely, and prepare to witness a journey that will touch your heart in ways you never expected. Because sometimes the ones we save end up saving us right back. Daniel's world had always been full of motion. As a dog trainer, he spent years helping others build unbreakable bonds with their pets. But ironically, his own life was falling apart. After losing his best friend, a loyal German shepherd named Rex, Daniel found himself stuck in an empty routine. The silence in his home became unbearable, and every corner echoed with memories of the past. He swore he would never get another dog. He couldn't go through that kind of loss again. Days turned into weeks, and the loneliness only grew heavier. Friends encouraged him to adopt, but Daniel dismissed the idea. He wasn't ready. He threw himself into work, training dogs for others, but refusing to let another one into his own heart. He told himself he was fine, that he didn't need another companion. But deep down, something was missing, something he didn't even want to admit to himself. One evening, as he walked through the park after a long day, he caught himself watching other people with their dogs. The effortless companionship, the silent understanding between them, it was something he used to have, and something he thought he had let go of. But in that moment, a small thought crept into his mind. Maybe, just maybe, he wasn't as fine as he pretended to be. As fate would have it, Daniel's life was about to change in a way he never expected. A chance encounter was waiting for him, one that would challenge everything he believed about love, loss, and second chances. He just didn't know it yet. That night, as he lay in bed staring at the ceiling, he felt something stir deep inside him. An emptiness that even time hadn't been able to fill. Little did he know, somewhere out there, a dog was waiting for him too. And that dog needed him just as much as he needed it. Daniel wasn't looking for a dog. But sometimes, life has a way of leading us exactly where we need to be. It was a cold afternoon when he found himself outside the local animal shelter. He had no real reason to be there, at least, that's what he told himself. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was something deeper. Either way, he hesitated before stepping inside, his heart pounding as the familiar scent of dogs and fresh hay filled the air. Rows of kennels stretched before him, each one holding a hopeful face. Some wagged their tails eagerly, others barked for attention. But Daniel felt nothing. He wasn't here to adopt after all. Just looking, he told himself. Just passing through. That's when he saw him. Tucked away in the back, lying quietly on a worn blanket, was a Labrador mix. Unlike the others, he wasn't trying to get noticed. His fur was slightly unkempt, his body still. But what caught Daniel's attention was the way the dog turned his head, slow, uncertain, as if sensing his presence rather than seeing him. His name's Charlie, a voice said behind him. A shelter volunteer stepped forward, her voice soft but cautious. He's blind. The words hit Daniel harder than he expected. Blind. The dog had been abandoned after his owners couldn't handle his condition. Nobody wanted him. He had been here for months, waiting, hoping, but hope was running out. Daniel crouched down, watching as Charlie sniffed the air, his ears twitching slightly. He reached out, hesitating for a second before letting his fingers brush against the dog's fur. Charlie flinched at first, then slowly leaned into the touch. A warmth spread through Daniel's chest, an unspoken understanding passing between them. There was something about this dog, something familiar, something right. For the first time in a long time, Daniel felt the walls around his heart crack just a little. He wasn't here to adopt. But as Charlie nudged his hand, searching for comfort, he realized he might not have a choice. Maybe fate had already decided for him. The decision wasn't immediate, but it was inevitable. Daniel told himself he needed time to think, but the moment he left the shelter, his mind was already made up. That night, as he lay in bed, he couldn't shake the image of Charlie, alone in that kennel, waiting for someone who might never come. The next morning, before he could talk himself out of it, he drove straight back to the shelter and filled out the adoption papers. Bringing Charlie home wasn't easy. He wasn't like the dogs Daniel had trained before. He moved cautiously, his steps uncertain as he navigated the unfamiliar space. Every new sound made him hesitate. Every obstacle was a potential challenge. But there was something remarkable about him, his determination. He didn't cower. He didn't give up. He simply adjusted one step at a time. And Daniel was right there beside him, guiding him through every new experience. Their bond wasn't instant, but it grew in small, quiet moments. The way Charlie leaned against Daniel's leg when he needed reassurance. The way his ears perked up when he heard Daniel's voice. The trust that built with every touch, every step, every whispered encouragement. Slowly, Charlie stopped flinching at unexpected sounds. He started wagging his tail more. He began to understand that he was safe. For Daniel, the change was even deeper. He had thought he was saving Charlie, but in truth, Charlie was saving him too. For the first time since losing Rex, Daniel felt a sense of purpose beyond his work. He wasn't just training a dog, he was learning from him. Patience, resilience, unconditional trust. Lessons he hadn't even realized he needed. One evening, as they sat together on the porch, Daniel reached out and gently scratched behind Charlie's ears. The dog sighed contentedly, pressing his head against Daniel's hand. In that moment, Daniel knew. This wasn't just a pet. This was family. Charlie was smart, but the world wasn't built for a blind dog. Every day brought a new challenge, stairs that seemed impossible to climb, furniture that turned into unexpected obstacles, streets filled with unpredictable noises. Daniel quickly realized that Charlie's blindness wasn't just about what he couldn't see. It was about how he had to experience everything differently. And that meant Daniel had to change the way he communicated, too. The first few walks were nerve-wracking. Every loud horn, every barking dog, every unfamiliar surface made Charlie hesitate. Sometimes, he froze completely, refusing to take another step. Daniel's instinct as a trainer was to push forward, to teach confidence through repetition. But with Charlie, it wasn't about control, it was about trust. So instead of pulling him forward, Daniel knelt beside him, whispering reassurances, letting Charlie move when he was ready. Step by step, he learned to trust Daniel's voice, his touch, his presence. Inside the house, adjustments had to be made. Daniel rearranged the furniture to create clear paths, placed soft mats near potential obstacles, and even wore a small bell on his wrist so Charlie could always locate him. He learned to give verbal cues before touching him, announcing his presence before approaching. The process was slow, filled with moments of frustration and doubt. But with every passing day, Charlie grew more confident, moving through the house with a sense of familiarity that hadn't been there before. The hardest part was teaching Charlie to play. Most dogs chased balls, ran after sticks, played tug-of-war. But how do you play when you can't see? At first, Charlie didn't understand the concept. He would hear a toy land and sniff around aimlessly, unable to find it. Daniel tried different approaches, attaching bells to the toys, using treats to guide him. One day, he found an old rope toy and gently brushed it against Charlie's muzzle. Instinct kicked in. Charlie grabbed it, pulling back just enough to engage. For the first time, he played, really played. And Daniel laughed, realizing how much joy he had missed since Rex. Not every day was a success. Some nights, Charlie still bumped into walls. Some walks ended early when he got overwhelmed. But little by little, Daniel saw the fight in him, the same fight he had felt within himself. They were both learning, both adapting. And in those small victories, they found something even stronger than sight: trust. Just when it seemed like things were falling into place, life threw an unexpected challenge their way. It happened on an ordinary afternoon. Daniel and Charlie were on their usual walk through the park, following the familiar route they had carefully practiced. Charlie had grown more confident, walking beside Daniel with his head held high, trusting the guidance of his leash and his owner's voice. But trust can be tested in an instant. A sudden noise shattered the calm, a car backfiring in the distance. The sharp sound sent Charlie into a panic. His body tensed, his tail tucked, and before Daniel could react, he bolted. The leash slipped from Daniel's fingers. In that split second, Charlie was gone, running blindly into the unknown. Daniel's heart stopped. He called out his name, his voice urgent but steady, fighting back the rising fear. But Charlie was too scared to listen. All Daniel could hear was the sound of his paws pounding against the pavement, fading into the distance. Daniel ran. His mind raced with worst-case scenarios, traffic, strangers, obstacles Charlie couldn't see. He pushed past people, scanning frantically, his gut twisting with panic. Every second felt like an eternity. Then up ahead, he spotted movement near the edge of a small wooded area. A blur of golden fur. Charlie, but he wasn't stopping. He was heading straight toward the road. Without thinking, Daniel lunged forward, cutting across the park, his breath ragged. Charlie stopped. His voice was firm, desperate, and for the first time since he had bolted, Charlie hesitated. His ears twitched, his steps faltered. That hesitation gave Daniel just enough time. He reached him, dropped to his knees, and wrapped his arms around Charlie's trembling body. The dog collapsed against him, his whole frame shaking, his breath coming in quick, uneven gasps. For what felt like forever, they just sat there. Daniel's heart pounded against his ribs, his arms still wrapped protectively around Charlie. Slowly, the trembling eased. Charlie nuzzled into Daniel's chest, his body pressing close, seeking comfort. It wasn't just relief, it was trust. Pure, unshakable trust. Daniel whispered softly, running his fingers through Charlie's fur. "It's okay. I've got you." And he meant it. No matter what, he wasn't letting go. That night, as Charlie lay curled up beside him, Daniel understood something. This wasn't just about training anymore. It wasn't about overcoming obstacles or learning commands. It was about being there for each other no matter what. Charlie hadn't just learned to trust Daniel. Daniel had learned to trust himself again. After the scare in the park, everything changed. Not in a bad way, but in a deeper, quieter kind of way. The kind that reshapes how you look at the world. Daniel had always been careful with Charlie, but now he became even more attentive. He started planning their days more deliberately, choosing quieter hours for walks, testing new paths before bringing Charlie along, even consulting with a specialist in training dogs with disabilities. What began as a rescue had become a partnership, an evolving rhythm between man and dog. Charlie, in his own way, responded to this shift. He became more attuned to Daniel's movements, reacting to the smallest vocal cues or gestures. There was this incredible sense of teamwork building between them. Daniel would say step, and Charlie would pause at a curb. Easy, and he'd slow down on gravel. Home, and Charlie would quicken his pace, tail wagging gently as they neared the porch. The communication between them was no longer just training. It was trust made real, word by word. For Daniel, the transformation was more than emotional. It was physical, mental, even spiritual. He felt himself healing in ways he hadn't expected. Mornings became something to look forward to. Nights weren't as heavy. Even on the hardest days, there was always Charlie, nuzzling into his hand, reminding him of the simple beauty of presence. Daniel began journaling again, capturing moments, noting progress. He even joined an online community for people who had adopted special needs pets. Suddenly, he wasn't alone in his journey. Charlie, too, started becoming a familiar face in the neighborhood. People noticed him, the gentle dog with clouded eyes and an eager spirit. Kids waved. Joggers slowed down to pet him. One local coffee shop even kept a water bowl out front labeled Charlie's Spot. It was like the community embraced his story, unknowingly becoming part of something quietly extraordinary. Charlie wasn't just surviving, he was thriving. And Daniel was right there with him, soaking in every step. What had started with pain and hesitation was becoming something beautiful. Each day, they faced new challenges, yes, but those challenges were met together. One man, one blind dog, and a bond growing stronger by the hour. It wasn't just about teaching Charlie how to live in a world he couldn't see. It was about both of them learning to see the world in a whole new way. Just when things seemed to be falling into place, life threw them another test, one that would prove just how deep their bond had become. It was a chilly autumn evening, and Daniel had taken Charlie for their usual walk through the neighborhood. The air was crisp, leaves crunching underfoot as they moved in their steady rhythm. Daniel's guiding voice, Charlie's careful but confident steps. It felt like just another night, until it wasn't. As they turned a corner near an alleyway, something felt off. Charlie's ears twitched, his body tensed. Daniel followed his instincts, tightening his grip on the leash and scanning the street. Then he saw them, two men standing near a parked car, their voices hushed but urgent. At first, he thought nothing of it. But then, one of them turned, revealing a crowbar glinting under the streetlight. The other one noticed Daniel and Charlie and stiffened. Daniel knew enough about situations like this to recognize trouble when he saw it. He wasn't looking for confrontation, so he calmly turned to walk away. But the moment he did, one of the men muttered something, and suddenly, fast footsteps closed the distance. Before Daniel could react, a rough voice called out, "Hey, you got a problem?" The hairs on the back of his neck stood up. He wasn't sure if this was an attempt at intimidation or something worse, but either way, he wasn't about to engage. Charlie, however, had already made his decision. Without hesitation, he stepped forward, placing himself between Daniel and the approaching stranger. A deep, rumbling growl came from his throat, a sound Daniel had never heard from him before. It wasn't frantic or aggressive. It was controlled, protective. The man hesitated, clearly not expecting resistance from a dog, especially a blind one. For a moment, no one moved. Then the second man called out, "Let it go, man. Let's go." A long pause, then footsteps retreating. Daniel let out a slow breath, his pulse hammering. He knelt beside Charlie, running a reassuring hand over his fur. "You okay, buddy?" he murmured. Charlie didn't move, still standing tall, ears perked. His sightless eyes couldn't see what had happened, but he had known. He had sensed Daniel's unease. He had acted, not out of fear, but out of loyalty, out of love. That night, as Charlie curled up beside him, Daniel understood something in a way he never had before. Trust wasn't just about guidance. It wasn't just about safety. It was about knowing, deep, unshakable knowing, that no matter what happened, they had each other's backs. After that night, something shifted. It wasn't just that Charlie had proven his loyalty. Daniel saw him differently now. He had always known Charlie was special, but this was something else. A blind dog, one that most people would have dismissed as helpless, had stood his ground and protected him. Not just with instinct, but with heart. That realization planted a seed in Daniel's mind. Charlie wasn't just a pet. He had a purpose. Daniel started researching therapy and service dog training, wondering if Charlie could help others the way he had helped him. He reached out to a local trainer who specialized in working with special needs dogs. The trainer was skeptical at first. "Blind dogs usually depend on guidance rather than providing it," she said. But then she met Charlie. She watched how he reacted to Daniel's voice, how he followed commands with precision, how he could sense emotions before they were spoken. "You might have something rare here," she admitted. They started small. Simple exercises focused on emotional support. Charlie learning to respond to distress, to nuzzle when someone was anxious, to stay still, and provide comfort. But as the training progressed, Daniel noticed something amazing. Charlie wasn't just learning, he was thriving. It was as if he finally had a role beyond survival, beyond just getting by in a world he couldn't see. He was helping, and he loved it. One day, Daniel brought Charlie to a local community center where volunteers work with children with disabilities. It was a test, just to see how he would do. The moment Charlie entered the room, the atmosphere shifted. A little girl in a wheelchair reached out hesitantly, her fingers brushing against his fur. "He's blind too?" she asked, her voice soft with wonder. When Daniel nodded, her face lit up. "Just like me," she whispered. That was the moment Daniel knew. This was bigger than just the two of them. Charlie had a gift, one that could touch lives in ways neither of them had expected. And for the first time in a long time, Daniel felt something he hadn't in years. Purpose. Charlie's presence at the community center became more than just a one-time visit. The staff invited him back, and soon, he and Daniel became regulars. Every week, they spent hours with children who faced challenges of their own, some with mobility issues, others with visual impairments, anxiety, or conditions that made them feel isolated. But when Charlie was there, those barriers seemed to fade. There was something about him, something unspoken but powerful. He didn't see the kids the way the world did. He didn't see their wheelchairs, their crutches, or their struggles. He just felt them, their energy, their emotions, their need for connection. And in return, they saw him not as a blind dog, but as a friend. A companion who understood what it meant to live in a world that didn't always accommodate differences. Daniel watched in awe as Charlie worked his quiet magic. A boy with severe anxiety, who barely spoke to others, would open up while stroking Charlie's fur. A child who was afraid to walk alone in unfamiliar places would take careful steps, guided by Charlie's steady presence. One day, a mother broke down in tears, thanking Daniel. "My daughter hasn't smiled like this in months," she said, watching as her little girl lay beside Charlie, whispering secrets into his ear. The transformation wasn't one-sided. Daniel found himself changing, too. He had started this journey thinking he was rescuing Charlie, but now he saw the truth. Charlie had rescued him right back. The grief, the loneliness, the self-doubt that had once weighed him down, they were still there but lighter now. Because every time he saw the difference Charlie made in these kids' lives, it reminded him that pain wasn't the end of the story. It could be the beginning of something greater. One evening, as Daniel and Charlie sat on the porch watching the sunset, he ran his fingers through Charlie's fur and whispered, "We're doing something real, buddy." Charlie didn't need to see the look in Daniel's eyes to understand. His tail thumped against the wooden floor, his silent way of saying, "I know." The more time they spent at the community center, the more Daniel realized that Charlie's impact went far beyond what he had imagined. It wasn't just about comforting kids or offering companionship. Charlie was teaching them something profound. He was proof that limitations didn't define worth, that resilience could shine brighter than any challenge, that love and loyalty weren't bound by sight, but by something much deeper. Word of Charlie's story started spreading. A local news outlet picked up on it, featuring him in an article titled, "The Blind Dog with a Heart of Gold." Soon after, Daniel started receiving messages from people who had read the piece, some sharing their own struggles, others simply thanking him for giving Charlie a chance when so many wouldn't have. More than once, a family reached out asking for advice on adopting a special needs pet, inspired by the bond he and Charlie had built. One day, a woman approached them after session at the center. She introduced herself as the director of a therapy animal program and offered Charlie the opportunity to be certified as an official therapy dog. Daniel hesitated at first, wondering if the training might be too much. But as he looked down at Charlie, standing tall with his clouded eyes and steady spirit, he knew the answer. Charlie had already proven he was more than capable. He wasn't just surviving, he was thriving. The certification process was challenging, but Charlie faced each step with the same quiet determination he had shown since the beginning. When the final approval came through, Daniel couldn't help but laugh as he ruffled Charlie's ears. "You did it, buddy," he said. "Officially the most incredible dog I've ever known." Charlie, as always, didn't need to see the certificate to understand. His tail wagged, his head pressed into Daniel's hand, and in that simple moment, everything was clear. Life had brought them together in the most unexpected way. One man lost in grief, one dog abandoned in darkness. And yet, in each other, they had found light. Their journey wasn't over, it was just beginning. Because the bond they shared, it wasn't limited by sight, time, or circumstance. It was something far greater, something unbreakable. Some bonds go beyond words, beyond sight, beyond anything that can be explained. The connection between Daniel and Charlie was one of them. What started as a simple rescue had transformed into something extraordinary, a partnership built on trust, resilience, and a love that refused to be limited by circumstances. Charlie's journey from an abandoned stray to a certified therapy dog proved one thing. True strength isn't about what we can't do, but about how we rise despite the odds. He didn't need to see the world to leave his mark on it. He touched lives not with his eyes, but with his heart. And in the process, he gave Daniel something he never expected, a reason to believe in life again. Even now, their story continues to inspire. The children Charlie comforted, the people who read about his journey, the families who chose to adopt a pet with special needs because of him, all of them became part of the ripple effect of one incredible dog's unwavering spirit. And as for Daniel, he no longer walked through life feeling lost. He had found his purpose and had 4 paws and a heart bigger than the world. Stories like this remind us that love doesn't come in perfect packages. It comes in unexpected moments, in second chances, in the willingness to see beyond limitations. And if Charlie's journey teaches us anything, it's that sometimes the ones who seem the most broken are the ones who shine the brightest. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more heartwarming tales of resilience, love, and the unbreakable bond between humans and animals. Because somewhere out there, another story is waiting to be told, and you won't want to miss it. When a grieving man crossed paths with a blind stray golden retriever, neither knew their lives were about to change forever. This emotional pet story follows the incredible journey of Daniel and Charlie, a bond forged in darkness, but strengthened by love, trust, and resilience.